Remember the 2008 bailout bill? The one that provided gargantuan loans to all the major Wall Street banks that ruined themselves after money cataracts clouded their otherwise brilliant capitalistic vision? Way back when the US government decided, hey, while we're on the subject of nonstop talk about threats of socialism, let's socialize our banks. And we were like, okay, as long as you're sure it'll trickle down to the rest of us. And then we felt something trickle down, but instead of the promised prosperity, it was mostly just bankers, metaphorically golden showering us in fraudulent loans and subsequent surprise foreclosures. Remember that? Yeah, that was weird. But regardless of how you feel about the bailout bill, one question is worth asking. How did it get there in the first place? And what did this emergency bailout bill look like before it became the law? Well, it looked like the Paul Wellstone Mental Health and Addiction Equality Act of 2007. The bill originally would require insurers offering mental health services to offer them to the same extent as the regular health services. A great victory for the patients and the doctors, right? Who could say no to that? As times grew tougher, what better bill than this shining star to append a $700 billion bailout to help struggling banks? Mental health and $700 billion for banks. Makes perfect sense, as long as you lack the former of those things. But surely everyone knew about the bailouts when they were happening. This was all over the news. So let's see the top comment for this bill on opencongress.org. Thank goodness this has passed the House. It's a shame that our country has not recognized at least one basic truth. Mental and physical health are not mutually exclusive. Okay, so one internet psychologist didn't realize what this bill actually became about. So what? I'm sure we can find a shout out to the bill. The next comment. Dear Duncan, I'm disappointed with your decision on H.R. 1424. However, look forward to your support in establishing a working format that will help our citizens in need and reduce our tax burden. Okay, so this guy thought he was writing to his congressman, and he wants a job. But he's disappointed? Oh, wait. Tax burden that supports the chronic emergency services they require here in California. I understand your need to follow our party's line and to vote with the majority of our side of the aisle. So his congressman voted against the bailout. And that disappointed him because it looked to him like his congressman voted against mental health. Okay, so we have a problem. The House is supposed to keep everything open, but it seems like they found a way to pass legislation that we can't even see, right before our eyes. But how? They're called riders, and they're the legislative equivalent to my high school practice of replacing the cover of the Alphabet of Manliness with a teen devotional booklet. So my parents would stop trying to throw it away. But it's not so awesome when the people who claim to represent you purposely make proposed legislation that's 1,000 pages long and contains 700 different items, 600 of which are totally fine and boring. When I read all 926 pages of last year's recently amended National Defense Authorization Act, I didn't do it for that radical high you get when you read excessively worded legislation. I did it to find the part everybody was talking about, which calls for the indefinite detention of terror suspects whose vague wording might make that section applicable to American citizens who were just hanging out in their American land. On the way to this fantastical promise section, I read roughly billions of absolutely uninteresting provisions, mostly about the military. Like the one half a page long clarifying that the anesthesia needs of pregnant women would be met in foreign countries overseas in the event of a C-section. That was a whole part of the bill. Great, that's important. Thank you for clearing that up. By page 600 or so, I realized that legislators don't even read these things. Legislators don't make bills or create helpful laws anymore. No, they hire boring people to write excessively boring bills so they can hide special treats for their campaign donors inside of them. And before you know it, Jack Abramoff gets caught building an illegal casino in Texas and learns how to write awful memoirs during a short stint in prison. Riders are those special treats, and they're so legal that it makes me enjoy living a little bit less. So as always, I went to Wikipedia to help me make sense of this world. It said that the use of riders is prevalent and customary in the Congress of the United States, as there are no legal or other limitations on their use. Riders are most effective when attached to an important bill, such as an appropriation bill, because to veto or postpone such a bill could delay funding to governmental programs, causing some serious problems. Oh good! Unlimited treats for the guys who hook us up at election time. Most effective when attached to a bill that makes you look like a dick for voting against, like the adorable Puppies Act of 2008 or Herman Cain's inevitable Pizza Friday bill. You can't vote against Pizza Fridays, man. Riders are often completely irrelevant to the bill they are attached and are commonly used to introduce unpopular provisions, Wikipedia says. They tend to have negative implications for freedom and civil liberties, but are nevertheless passed due to the amount of support they receive behind the original bill. For example, a rider to stop net neutrality was attached to a bill relating to military and veteran construction projects. Well, since none of Wikipedia's astoundingly fast-acting editors have cited the section for references yet, I have to assume that the above is factual. And that sucks so much. So if nobody in the House is reading these bills entirely, and since the guy writing them clearly possesses so little humanity that nobody else wants to, what the hell are we passing? And how are we supposed to catch all these riders and convince the media to report on them so either side can't be constantly berated for voting down a bill for its few questionable stipulations? Is it worth passing a bill to extend much-needed payroll cuts to American citizens if it's inseparably attached to a bill that built a thoroughly studied oil pipeline as a hookup for our top oil guy? No, it's not. Oil pipelines leak all the time, and we keep putting them right next to water supplies. Ask the thousands of people who can light their tap water on fire if this sounds like a problem. Yes it does, they probably tell you. Unfortunately, our legislators don't like to ask us much of anything, and really only seem to want us around when it's voting season. Thanks, guys. You're really cool. You're so cool that your approval rating is lower than that of terminal brain cancer. For the longest time, I believed that these riders just had to be illegal. But then I remembered that my naive, childlike mind doesn't know any better than to append common sense to our law. Riders are a tool that's meant to be used against the people. Riders are dumb. Riders are bad. Riders should go away forever. Just imagine a world where proposed legislation had to stay on topic, and every bill introduction didn't have to end with "and for other purposes," as it currently does. We'll get there, but let's get on that. Because we've already stabbed congressional insider trading in the face. Legislation outlawing that suddenly appeared after the Zero Hedge expose went public. Keep ignoring independent media and we'll keep ruining your vacation plans. That's all I got. But remember that you can always count on me to make your day a little worse by bringing you the 411 on terrible things you've never heard of.